Israel's skies just lit up again. Reports of strikes on Saudi soil shook the region this month. But here's the real question: which Arab power, or even Muslim ally, could actually threaten Israel in a full-scale war? The answer might shock you. We'll measure nuclear shadows, missile ranges, fighter jets, and war experience across Pakistan, Iran, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey. One has the bomb. One has missiles Israel can't ignore. And one is silently building a war machine in plain sight. Who can threaten Israel? Our test is simple: which power can reach Israeli territory, sustain a war, match Israel's technology, or wield nuclear firepower? Stay to the end, because the ranking isn't what most people expect. One of these powers just signed a pact that could drag a nuclear state into the Middle East battlefield. But before we continue, please like and subscribe to our channel. We need your help on this, please. Thank you. Let's start with Pakistan. Not an Arab state, but the Muslim world's only nuclear power. Analysts estimate Islamabad's arsenal at roughly 170 nuclear warheads, a shadow that looms far beyond South Asia. And one of those missiles, the Shaheen 3, already has the range to fly straight past the Middle East and strike Israel. But here's the real twist. Just this September, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia signed a mutual defense pact. If Saudi soil, like the sites Israel reportedly struck earlier this year, is hit again, Pakistan's nuclear shadow instantly enters the equation. And it's not theory. Pakistan has just fought a real war this year. The spring conflict with India along the Kashmir border saw days of artillery duels, drone strikes, and even limited air engagements. That fight sharpened its military machine, testing its JF-17 fighters, artillery networks, and drone swarms in combat conditions. Unlike many Arab armies, Pakistan is battle-tested this year, not decades ago. On paper, Pakistan fields thousands of tanks, a vast standing army, and combat aircraft including F-16s and its homegrown JF-17 fleet. But distance is the killer. To project force into Israel, Pakistan would need staging in Saudi Arabia, Jordan, or Egypt, without which its conventional strength remains stuck behind the mountains of South Asia. So, what does that mean? Pakistan holds the ultimate ace, nuclear firepower, and fresh combat experience against India. But unless Riyadh calls on its ally, geography keeps Islamabad's hand tied. Pakistan, the nuclear wildcard. The only Muslim state that could instantly change Israel's strategic calculus. The question is, would it risk Armageddon over Saudi soil? And while Pakistan holds the bomb, Iran holds the missiles, hundreds of them, ready to fire right now. If Pakistan is the nuclear wildcard, then Iran is the relentless adversary. No state has clashed with Israel more directly in recent years, and none carries a deeper obsession with erasing it from a map. And in June 2025, that obsession exploded into the open in a war that lasted just 12 days. In the early hours of June 2nd, Iran launched a wave of more than 1,200 missiles and drones toward Israel. Some punched through Iron Dome and aero defenses, slamming into Haifa's port, Tel Aviv's suburbs, even reaching the Negev desert bases. For the first time in decades, Israelis woke up to real damage on their own soil, but Israel hit back harder. Within hours, F-35s, Jericho ballistic missiles, and cyber units tore through Iran's infrastructure. Refineries went dark, air defense batteries collapsed, and command centers in Tehran shook with precision strikes. The war ended in less than 2 weeks, with Israel proving it could cripple Iran's war machine. And yet, Iran survived, and it's already arming again. U.S. intelligence now reports Tehran is quietly rebuilding, moving missile production underground, smuggling drones through Syria and Lebanon, and rushing to replace what Israel destroyed. Each shipment, each hidden site, is a step toward the next clash. Iran isn't just recovering, it's preparing for round 2. But here's the real fear inside Tehran. Not just losing weapons, but losing the leader himself. After Israeli strikes came within 20 kilometers of the Supreme Leader's compound, chatter spread. If Jerusalem ever decides to decapitate the regime, Iran's entire system could collapse overnight. For Iran, it's no longer just about missiles, it's about survival. Iran, battered in the 12-day war, bloodied but unbroken. Its missiles can still rain fire, but its leaders live with one haunting question. Will Israel one day take out not just their weapons, but their throne itself? And while Iran rebuilds in the shadows, another state sits across the Sinai, armed, vast, and with a history of direct wars against Israel. Egypt, Israel's most historic rival. The two have clashed in 4 major wars from 1948 to 1973. And even today, Cairo still commands one of the largest militaries in the Arab world, with thousands of tanks, nearly 300,000 active troops, and a top 20 global ranking. But can Egypt's heavy army really march across the Sinai again like it did in 1973? Not in 2025. Israel's edge is sharper than ever. With its F-35 fleet, layered missile defenses, and real-time satellite intelligence, a Sinai blitz today would be suicidal. Egypt's armored columns would be seen, targeted, and destroyed long before reaching Israeli lines. Still, Egypt isn't standing still. Over the past 2 years, Cairo has deepened arms deals with China, acquiring wing-long drones, air defense systems, and even negotiating for new missile technology. These partnerships give Egypt more teeth, especially in surveillance and asymmetric warfare. So, while Egypt may not strike across the desert, it's quietly building a modern arsenal. And geography itself is a weapon. The Suez Canal, lifeline for global trade and military passage, is firmly under Egyptian control. In any wider Arab-Israeli war, Cairo doesn't need to invade. It just needs a squeeze. Closing Suez could strangle Israel's shipping lanes and force Tel Aviv to rely on longer, vulnerable sea routes. Sometimes, the most dangerous move isn't firing a shot, it's choking the sea. Egypt, the old warhorse. A giant on paper, sharpened by new Chinese hardware, and holding the keys to the Suez. Less likely to storm across Sinai, but still able to hurt Israel in ways that reach far beyond the battlefield. And while Egypt looms to the south, another power sits across the Mediterranean, NATO-armed, battle-hardened, and increasingly hostile to Israel. Turkey, north of Israel across the Mediterranean, sits a power unlike any other Arab state. Turkey, a NATO army, a drone superpower, and led by a president who has sparred with Israel at every turn. And unlike Egypt or Saudi Arabia, Turkey has actually fought and won modern wars in this decade. From Syria to Libya, and most recently in the Caucasus, Turkey's Bayraktar drones rewrote the rules of warfare, destroying Russian tanks, Armenian armor, and even Syrian air defenses. Few militaries in the region have tested their weapons in real combat as much as Ankara's. If those drones can dismantle Russian systems, imagine what they could do against Israel's armor in a desert clash. And beyond drones, Turkey fields a formidable arsenal. Hundreds of modernized F-16s, cutting-edge T-129 attack helicopters, and one of the largest standing armies in NATO, over 400,000 troops. Add to that its naval power, submarines, frigates, and soon, its first light aircraft carrier. Turkey isn't just a land power, it's a Mediterranean heavyweight. Relations with Israel have soured sharply in recent years. Erdogan openly accuses Tel Aviv of state terrorism, while Ankara hosts Hamas leaders in Istanbul. Military exercises in the Eastern Med have grown increasingly hostile, with Turkish warships shadowing Israeli gas rigs. But here's the catch. Despite its NATO badge, Turkey stands alone. Any move against Israel risks triggering a crisis inside NATO itself. And Israel's F-35 edge, plus its U.S. backing, makes a direct clash a gamble Ankara knows could backfire hard. Turkey may roar in the Mediterranean, but would it really risk NATO fracture for a war with Israel? Turkey, the NATO wildcard. Armed with combat-proven drones, a massive army and Mediterranean reach. But trapped between ambition and alliance, its power is real, but its trigger finger is restrained. So with Pakistan's nukes, Iran's missiles, Egypt's Suez chokehold, and Turkey's NATO army, which of these powers truly threatens Israel the most? The answer may surprise you. Saudi Arabia and Gulf states, the billion-dollar arsenal. Saudi Arabia spends more on defense than nearly any Arab state. Over $75 billion in 2025, a budget larger than Turkey and Iran combined. Add the UAE and Qatar, and the Gulf becomes a military marketplace of cutting-edge Typhoon jets, Patriot missile batteries, and advanced cruise missiles. But spending power isn't the same as battle power. Can Riyadh's billions really buy a war against Israel? Here's the catch. Much of this arsenal is imported from US, French, and British contractors. Spare parts, targeting systems, even basic maintenance often depend on Western technicians. In a prolonged war, that dependency could become a choke point, especially if Washington chooses neutrality or sides with Israel. But in modern warfare, money is more than hardware. Riyadh's oil billions by influence and manpower. In Yemen, Saudi and UAE forces already hired foreign contractors and even recruited fighters from Sudan. In a wider Middle East war, Gulf states could bankroll legions of mercenaries, private security forces, and allied militias to fight on their behalf. In other words, Gulf riches could turn the battlefield into a marketplace. Beyond soldiers, wealth buys alliances. Billions in oil revenues flow into Egypt, Pakistan, and Jordan, binding them closer to Gulf security. And under the new Saudi-Pakistan Defense Pact, those oil dollars may one day summon Pakistan's nuclear umbrella into the fight. Saudi Arabia and the Gulf, technologically sharp, rich beyond measure, but still untested under real fire. Their true ace isn't just weapons, it's wealth. And in modern war, wealth can buy soldiers, allies, and perhaps even nuclear shadows. But money, missiles, and manpower only matter if a state has the will to fight. So, which of these powers, Pakistan, Iran, Egypt, Turkey, or the Gulf, actually poses the greatest threat to Israel? So, who could actually threaten Israel in 2025? Let's break it down from the least likely to the most dangerous. Number 5, Egypt. Egypt, the old warhorse. A massive army, new Chinese arms, and the Suez Canal, ace card. But against Israel's modern defenses, its reach is limited. Number 4, Saudi Arabia and Gulf states. Saudi Arabia and the Gulf, oil-rich, tech-loaded, and now tied to Pakistan. But reliant on US and European support, their arsenal is sharp but untested. Number 3, Turkey. Turkey, the NATO wildcard. Combat-proven drones, a Mediterranean navy, and a massive army. But alliance politics make direct war with Israel a dangerous gamble. Number 2, Iran. Iran, the relentless adversary. Missiles, drones, proxies, and still rearming after the 12-day war. Tehran is the constant pressure cooker on Israel's borders. Number 1, Pakistan. And at the top, Pakistan, the nuclear wildcard. With 170 warheads, long-range missiles, and a brand-new Saudi defense pact, Islamabad represents a threat that could instantly shift Israel's entire strategic balance. But here's the real suspense. What happens if 2 or 3 of these powers act together? Pakistan's nukes, Iran's missiles, and Turkey's drones, united. That's the nightmare scenario Israel's strategists dread most. And this is only the beginning. Wars aren't fought in theory, they're fought in deserts, skies, and seas. So, what do you think? Which of these powers poses Israel's greatest danger? And could the Middle East be heading toward a showdown that changes everything? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell because the next conflict we uncover might be closer than you think.